Hello and welcome back to Genealogy Tutorials. In this video, I'm going to show you how I keep track of all my genealogical research. This is a new system that I actually just implemented for myself, so I'm going to walk you through how I'm getting started on it. I am, as many genealogists are, I'm sure, very scatterbrained. I get sidetracked so easily. I try to research one person and then I find a hint for another person and it just goes off the walls and I don't remember where I started, I don't remember where I ended, I don't remember what I wanted to look for in the beginning. So this system I think is going to be very helpful for me and hopefully for you too. So let's get started. As you can see, I am in a Google Sheet that is basically the same as Excel. You can use Google Sheets or Excel for this. I just prefer Google Sheets because they're online, which means that if my computer crashes, I won't lose everything. Google Sheets are available in Google Drive. So basically the same as Excel, and you can do this with Excel if you prefer to use that. So what I have done first is I have made different tabs down here, and the tabs are based on the place and the surnames. And so obviously I have, for example, Buckners that were in Missouri, and then I have the Buckners that moved from Missouri to Washington State. And so the ones that moved I would put in a whole different tab. This is to keep track of the Buckner family that I'm looking for in Missouri. But if I did want to research the Buckners in Washington, I would create a whole nother tab that said Washington Buckner. So we are in this tab here, which is dedicated to the Buckners, the Carrs, yes, that says Carr, not Keir, and the Seals. So these were three families that intermarried. This is Joel Buckner, he is my third great-grandfather. This is his wife, Mary Seal. This is who I believe Joel's father was, and I'm attempting to prove it. And this is his wife, or Joel's possible mother. So we have Joel Buckner, Mary Seal, Thomas Buckner, and Nancy Carr. So I put all these together in one tab because I'm sort of researching them together, mostly because I'm trying to find a link between Joel and Thomas, and so it's really helpful to look for them in the same documents. So as you will see up here, I have the names that I'm researching, and then in the first column I have records. So I have things like Missouri probate records, military records at National Archives, Archive Grid, tract books, land patent case files, Madison County marriage books, so anything that would relate to any of these four people. So up here are the names, over here are the sources. You will see that I have X's in certain places. The X's indicate for me that I want to look for this person in this record. So for example, for Joel, I do want to look for him in the Missouri probate records, but I don't need to look for him in military records because I know he never served. Same with Mary. I want to look for her in probate records. Down here, where I want to look for Joel in the Madison County Recorder of Deeds, I don't need to look for Mary because Mary never bought the land, Joel bought the land. So this, I think, is very helpful because it sort of shows me when I'm looking at any particular source, I know that I could search for all four of these people at the same time, rather than looking at the source and only looking for Joel and then realizing a few weeks later that, oh man, I could have also looked for these three people. So it sort of consolidates everything and makes it quicker and more streamlined to research. The other thing that you will notice is color. I have color-coded things. So red I have used to indicate that I have looked into the source and I cannot find a reference to anybody. So I looked into the Madison County marriage books and I didn't find any reference to any of these four people, which is really discouraging because they definitely should have been there. So now I'm just at a loss, but now I know. Yellow I have used to indicate that something is in progress. So for example, this one is a little different. This source, I actually sent an email to the Secretary of State of Tennessee's librarian to see if they had any, well, over here it says, any record of the War of 1812 service. So yellow means that I am still awaiting a response from them. But for a typical source, just something that you would find on Ancestry or Family Search, I would use yellow to indicate maybe that I'm in the process of looking and then maybe write the page number. What I've found is that a lot of times in these records, they actually won't be indexed, and so you have to go through every single page. This one has like over 700, so if I was to start going through this, I would mark this yellow and say, okay, I went to page 1836. That way I know where I left off and I can come back to it on another date. Now the other color that you don't see here but that I would use would be green. Green would mean that I had found a record for him and I don't have to look anywhere else. So for example, Missouri probate records. If I had marked this green, it would indicate that I had found a probate record for Joel and that I wouldn't have to look for his probate record anywhere else. Maybe if Joel was a guy who I wasn't sure if he died in Missouri or Arkansas, if I mark this green, I know, okay, I don't have to look in the Arkansas probate records. So it's just a really basic way of keeping track of your research, but I think it's going to be really helpful. So now that we've gone over this sheet already, I'm going to go ahead and click over into this new tab, which you can see is totally empty. So we are going to build this together. So this one I am working with the Bell and the Booths. These are also families that married into these families. Well, Booth married into Bell, Bell married into Buckner. There's a lot of families in Missouri. That's where my family comes from, so I have a lot of Missouri families. But anyway, this tab is just going to be dedicated to the Bells and the Booths. The Bells and the Booths, the birds and the bees, the Bells and the Booths. That's great. So I am going to start off on Ancestry, and I am going to go over to the first person that we're going to work with, which is, where are they? Sarah Booth. So Sarah Booth is like super far back there. She's great something. So we are starting with Sarah Booth. So Sarah Booth is someone that I'm really excited about. I'm just starting to break some brick walls with her, so hopefully keeping track of my research status with her will be a huge help. So what I want to first start off doing is looking at the facts that I have for her in Ancestry and sort of seeing if I'm missing anything. So I have her birth and I have her marriage. So obviously there's a big gap here between birth and marriage. So what are we missing? We're missing the 1830 census and the 1840 census. So I will put those in here. So Sarah Booth, let's just put the names in. Over here, I'm going to put 1830 census. So I don't know if the 1830 census would be in Tennessee or Illinois. As you can see, she was born in Tennessee, but was eventually married in Illinois. So I'm not sure about that, so I'm going to leave that blank. I'm also going to put the 1840 census down. So these are actually two things that I think I would need to look for her parents too, because see, I have absolutely nothing for her parents. So I'm going to put that in. So William, I don't know if his name was William or Stephen, William Booth and Nancy Clardy. Let's put them in too. And I'm going to put X's on all of these, oops, because I need to research those censuses for all of them. Then I have the 1850 census where she's living with her husband in Illinois. This is interesting. I would assume that he had at some point took out a land patent, or there's some record of him buying that property. So that is something that I'm going to want to look into. So I'm going to add her husband, who is William Walters, down to this. Actually, I'm going to put him in next to her. So I want to look for land property records for Liberty, Illinois. I don't need to put her down because he probably bought the land. I mean, that's pretty safe to assume. Then I'm gonna put property records, Illinois General, just as a note to myself, and look for him there. That's Sarah's dad. So what else? We have the 1850 census, 1860 census, where he moves to Missouri. So here they're in Illinois, here they're in Missouri. So that's interesting. I think that I want to look for his property records in Concord, Missouri. So I'm going to put that down too. That's for, not Sarah, her husband, William Walters. So Property records, Concord MO. Put an X next to his name. And again, I don't need to put an X next to these people because as far as I know, they didn't move. So I just realized that I made a mistake. 1860 is when Sarah lived in Concord, Missouri, but actually William, her husband, was dead by then, I believe. I think she was a widow, if I remember correctly. So I am going to take his X away and actually put an X by her name because he was nowhere to be found. So that's interesting. Then she moves to Bellevue, Missouri, so I could put another X there to see if I could find records of her moving. So these could be the same towns and then just the name on the census changed, but I am going to put that there anyway. Let's put 1870 census, property records, Bellevue MO for her. Then in 1880, she's living in Iron Mountain, St. Francois, Missouri, as a hotel keeper. So I'm going to put in St. Francois records. And then I also want to look into the history of hotels in St. Francois to see if I can find any information of what sort of hotels were there, who worked there. Let's see, then she died. I have all her death records, so that's pretty much it. Okay, now I'm going to narrow this down a little bit more. These are just the basics that I want to research for Sarah. Obviously, I can add more and put X's next to these people's names, but not going to right now. Let's start with property records for Concord, Missouri. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do BLM Glow and look for her in Washington County and BLM Glow St. Francois County. So these will give me land patents. They're a little bit more specific than just property records. So right here you'll see I wrote down property records for Concord, Missouri. That's very broad. We're going to narrow it down and look at Washington County plat books. Put an X there. And actually, to make this even easier on myself, if you'll notice on this one that I've already made, these link to the actual source. So I'm going to add a link here to the plat books that I found. And to do that, you go over to the link. So I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to add it here. So to add the link, you highlight the cell that you want and then you push insert, link, paste, apply. So that's just a basic overview of how I sort of start my search. I pick maybe one person to focus on, write down things that I want to research for them, and then if I realize that those are sources that could be helpful in the people that are related to them, I put an X by their name too. Then eventually I'll fill this in with more sources that would be related to William, to this William, and to Nancy. So another really helpful source that I use to sort of fill in sources here is Family Search Wiki. So over here I've gone to the Washington County, Missouri page on Family Search, and these are super helpful because they give you everything you need to know. They give you when births started to be recorded, when marriages were recorded, when deaths were recorded. And then it just starts to give you really helpful resources. So it has all the resources for cemeteries. They have all the census records here. They have church records. They have court records. They have land and property records. So Missouri probate records, 1750 to 1998. I want to add that to this. So Missouri probate records, 1750 to 1998. And I am going to look for hers, his, hers. I know she died in Missouri. I don't know where he died, so I'm just going to put him in there. And I'm going to put a link to this just so I know where it is. We're going to click that, copy this link, insert, link, paste. There you go. So Family Search Wiki is my go-to source for finding super obscure sources that I would never have imagined existed. Then I go ahead and add them in over here. I check the boxes to who they would apply to, and there you have it. This is how I make my research status Excel sheet. Super helpful, super fun. I just love being able to visualize where I am with my research. Like this one, once it starts to get colored in more, it means that I am farther along with my research, making progress, breaking down those brick walls. So I hope this tutorial was helpful to any of you who are just so scatterbrained, and feel free to customize this to your liking. I just like checking off as many people as possible at once through one source, but that may not be your style. So this is just an idea of how you can organize your research, but feel free to customize this in any way that you feel more comfortable doing. Thank you for watching. Leave me any feedback that you want. It would be immensely helpful. Thanks.